Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Banfield. I am live at CrimeCon in Denver, Colorado. This is a place for true crime fans and content creators, investigators and advocates, you name it. CrimeCon, I think for better a description is that it's the Super Bowl, right? It's the World Cup, and it's the Oscars all wrapped up in one jam-packed weekend for true crime fans. So, very special show for you. I actually spent the day today on stage with the folks at the Law and Crime Network talking about the Luigi Mangione case, and then meeting and greeting dozens and dozens of you, true crime fans, who are here to mix and mingle with the investigators and the podcasters and the crime victims and the survivors. Everybody gets together here. It is one amazing community. And our own Brian Entin was in the crowd all day as well, meeting hundreds of people who've come to CrimeCon, and he really got the feel for the place today. Have a look.
Where are you guys from?
San Antonio.
We are from outside of Philadelphia.
You drove 27 hours.
From Nassau County, Long Island, New York to come here.
Tell me about these shirts.
I made them, and I don't know, we like wine and we like true crime.
So your shirt says hair scene investigation.
Yes.
What does this mean?
This means that in the hair community, a lot of people like to lie about previously coloring their hair. So when we put the bleach on it, they're allegedly innocent until proven guilty when the bleach proves that they lied to you.
We just want to know what you're most excited about.
I'm kind of excited listening to the speakers about the Delphi murders.
So she's a doctor, I'm a nurse. We kind of have this medical background of just being interested in the dark, weird world of true crime.
DNA, ancestry DNA, the way that they can use that.
We're out here to solve an unsolved murder. We want to do our part.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think it is about the crimes that people are so interested in?
It's a community. It's understanding what everyone goes through and that crimes have to be solved.
Wow, if there's one word that I could sum up CrimeCon, it is a community. It really is. And we've got a ton of other highlights from here at CrimeCon that we want to get to tonight. But there wouldn't be a con without the true crime. So let's start with that. And what a crime story this one is. The Adelson family hit job in Florida. Late yesterday, a jury spent 3 hours. That was it. Before delivering their verdict, and they convicted the family matriarch, Donna Adelson. They found her guilty of masterminding the murder for hire of her daughter's ex-husband back in 2014. The verdict was not a shock to a lot of people who have followed this twisted case, but Grandma Gotti, as the internet calls her, isn't most people. Case in point, I want you to take a look at how she took the news when she heard guilty.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as to count three of the indictment. Solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room. Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have to determine if you will be removed from the remainder of this process.
The judge gave Donna Adelson exactly 2 minutes to collect herself before bringing the jury back into the room. And after the verdict, the parents of Dan Markell, the victim that she murdered, spoke ahead of the sentencing. They talked about their late son, who was a law professor at Florida State University. Here's Dan Markell's father, Phil Markel.
She has harmed forever the people she claims to have loved. In the Jewish custom, we have an expression to always wish others to live to 120 years of age. For Donna, I wish her to live to 120, alone in her jail cell. I wish that every day of her remaining days, she thinks about the harm she has caused to so many, especially those two boys she claims to have loved so much. For these reasons, Your Honor, I ask the court sentence Donna Adelson to the maximum possible sentence. And my only short question to Donna, was it worth it?
Holy cow, that's powerful. If you're counting, by the way, Donna is the 5th person to go down for Dan Markel's murder and the 2nd member of the Adelson family. Her son, Charlie, as well as Charlie's ex-girlfriend, and 2 hired hitmen are already doing hard time for the murder of Dan. And Donna faces a mandatory life sentence for murder 1 and conspiracy and solicitation. But she may not be the last Adelson to face a Tallahassee jury for Dan Markel's death. With Donna's case all but closed and prosecutors certainly on a roll, there are still 2, count them, 2 Adelson family members who, it's fair to say, are not yet in the clear. They've never been charged with anything, but there is no question their fortunes may still be reversed. I'll tell you who they are and why they ought to be pretty darn nervous right about now in just a moment. But tonight from CrimeCon, we are also following the case of the University of Kentucky cheerleader, who police say admits to hiding her dead newborn in a closet. A former high school classmate of Laken Snelling tells the Daily Mail that Laken Snelling was, and I quote, an appearance-obsessed bully. Sydney Kite goes on to say, quote, she was obsessed with her appearance, very obsessed with being popular and fitting in. Laken had many, many people that she took her personal anger out on. My sister was one of them. While in high school, she tried to run one of my closest friends over with her Jeep. To be clear, being nasty is not a crime. And while trying to run someone over is a crime, this is just an allegation and it's unsubstantiated, which, so far as we know, never became a police matter either. Unlike the events of last week in Lexington, Kentucky, which really became a police matter. Laken Snelling's newborn was found wrapped in a towel inside a trash bag in a closet 1 week ago Wednesday. The baby boy's cause of death is still unknown. The coroner seemed to be unable to determine what caused the little boy's death. So for now, Laken is not charged with murder, but she is charged with abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and concealing a birth. And she's out on bond, but she is ordered to stay with her parents pending trial. I want to bring in 2 people who have both been all over these cases and who are both here at CrimeCon with me. My NewsNation colleague, Brian Entin, and also Annie Elise. Annie is the host of the very popular podcast, Serialously with Annie Elise. Welcome to both of you. Brian, I'm going to start with you. Man, this has been a day. You've been so busy. Let's talk about the Grandma Gotti case and that emotional outburst. I want to ask you if you think that this was something she really wasn't expecting, a guilty verdict after 3 hours of deliberation, or if you think that was an act.
Yeah, you're right, though. It has been a day. We're here at CrimeCon. I'm here with Annie, which is so exciting. I think I'm just like so sweaty. I've been running around all day. There's so much going on at CrimeCon, and we've been following these other stories, too. But in terms of Adelson, yeah, I think that it just seemed performative. That's what Annie and I were just talking about. I mean, this gasp right away, right when the first count was read. And remember, I mean, she used to get dressed all up, all fancy before the trial. Then she's in these grandma clothes, kind of looking frumpy during the trial, which seemed like that was all part of the act, don't you think?
Yeah, I think she really wanted to, like, elicit the sympathy and look like this grandmother who could never do anything like this. And then she had to continue to sell it after that when the verdict was read.
Yeah, I didn't buy it, Ashleigh. I didn't think it was real.
Well,
no.
Let me ask you this, Brian and Annie. I thought about her being a very rich woman who had a wonderful life, who's realizing what kind of life, like how far from grace she's fallen. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I think, too, she thought she was going to get away with this. She had that one-way ticket to Vietnam where she was going to, and then she was arrested there at the airport. So now she's thinking this is her Hail Mary to finally get out of this somehow. And now the walls are closing in and it's done.
Yeah, maybe in that moment, Ashleigh, she realized like she was going away and this was it.
Yeah. That's got to be a very painful reality, especially if you thought you were going to get away with it. Okay, Brian, or Annie, let me ask you this one. There's still 2 other family members in the Adelson pack who we all sort of think should be very nervous tonight. Tell me about them and why.
Absolutely. I think Wendy should especially be nervous. She did testify with limited immunity for the last 4 trials, but she's really the catalyst behind all of this. She's the one who was in the custody dispute and arguably why all of these people put this murder for hire plot into motion. So I would imagine that there are going to be charges coming down the pike for her.
What about Harvey, the dad?
Harvey, too, I think, you know, it's tough because I think that maybe he didn't know everything that was going on. However, Charlie, Wendy's brother, his girlfriend, who was involved in all of this as well, bought his very expensive Lexus for $1,700, which could be arguably, you know, a payment for their services rendered. And he was also with Donna when they went to Vietnam or when they were trying to go to Vietnam.
Yeah, the Lexus thing
is weird.
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's
Nobody's just selling their Lexus for $1,700.
Right.
I'd have liked to be in on that deal, but you're right. It sounds fishy, but you know how it is. You can't prosecute unless you think you can win. And so it's all about the evidence. If they haven't collected enough evidence that they think they could secure a guilty verdict on either Wendy, who is, of course, Dan Markel's ex-wife, or Harvey, who's Donna's husband, then they won't. They won't go for that prosecution, even if they think they are in on it. Okay, Brian, I'm coming back to you on this one. The beauty queen cheerleader story. This one really is just so upsetting, but I'm always surprised when after autopsy you hear something like inconclusive. This is a newborn baby. It shouldn't be that difficult. What do you think about this? Do you think it's unusual? Do you think they're just in the infancy, pardon the pun, of the investigation, that they might actually be able to come up with a cause of death later on?
Yeah, and you're right. It is very, very upsetting because it involves the baby and everything that happened. It didn't surprise me that much. I'm surprised people are reading into it so much in terms of the inconclusive finding. If there's no signs of foul play on the outside, it can take time. They have to do more testing. When we do these stories and you get autopsy results initially, you don't get the toxicology results right away. You don't get all of the testing of the blood and the tissue. So I think we're going to get more. I just think it's going to take some time.
Mm-hmm. But we've all seen stories, right, where this happens and they can't medically determine if a murder happened. They have to have a cause of death. They've got to know if the baby was asphyxiated. They've got to know if there was a smothering, if there was anything, you know, did the baby aspirate water? Because the baby aspirating oxygen, taking his first breath, does not necessarily indicate a murder, because we all know that there can be babies who die after birth, maybe because of the care that they didn't receive. But Annie, what are you looking for in terms of the investigation and where they're going to go with that?
I think they're going to look for not only what they can learn from the future medical examinations, but also what could have led up to this. I mean, all over her social media, she didn't announce the pregnancy, but she was posting photos with a visible bump, her boyfriend holding it. It looked as though she was excited for this next chapter in her life. She was also reposting different motherhood memes and things like that. So then for this abrupt end, I wonder if they're going to find anything through her digital devices or anything like that to where it does indicate that she was fearful of this pregnancy or didn't want it. And I think that's going to be a lot of the evidence that comes into play here.
Okay, Brian, weigh in on the pictures we're seeing right now. She showed up for her first court appearance wearing a red cocktail dress, lots and lots of makeup, and this sort of perfect hairdo. And I just wasn't sure what to make of it, whether a lawyer had given her bad advice, whether a lawyer gave her no advice. But this made a lot of waves on the internet. And it's also going to matter when a jury, if a jury ends up adjudicating a verdict for her, they're going to sort of see this as somebody who is maybe performative. It isn't upset or sad or mourning the loss of this baby.
Yeah, this was obviously a big mistake. I would be shocked if her attorney knew about this outfit, about the hair being perfectly done, about the makeup, not a good look. I mean, you think back to Donna Adelson, how she purposely tried to look like this sort of frumpy grandma. I mean, there's a reason they told her to do that. You want to look sad. You want to look normal. You're not showing up to the nightclub. I mean, look at her. I mean, look at the cocktail dress.
And you want to look like Meek. Think of Jodi Arias with the glasses and all of that. And now this coupled with her reputation where people are saying she's a serial bully, she was a mean girl, it's just not going to look good.
Yeah, not a good look.
Well, and Casey Anthony was she was the grandma of it all. Like, she was the one that did the frump, the best, and boy, did it work out well for her. Okay, last quick question, Annie, and this one's about those damning statements that she was this bully. That's not necessarily admissible, right, in court, but we're talking about it. It's out there in the zeitgeist, right? And juries are picked from people who watch TV and see the headlines, especially in that community.
Well, that's exactly right, Ashleigh. Although it's not going to be admissible, you want to be portrayed as this person who is remorseful, kind, nice. You want people to be on your side, the public, the jury. So if all of these things are out there, that she tried to run somebody over with a car allegedly, that she bullied one girl so badly she had to withdraw from school, then she's so concerned about her appearance, she's showing up to court like this, it starts to paint a picture that it's going to be difficult to get a lot of people on board in her corner.
Yeah, and you need sympathy. I mean, honestly, if you're facing a jury and you're a young mother and you've done this, you need the sympathy. You need people to almost jury nullify if you're going to beat charges. And certainly if you get charged with murder. I mean, who knows if that's going to happen, but we'll be watching it. Annie, Elise, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to come by your booth a little later on, too.
Thank you.
And Brian Entin, I'm going to ask you to stick around because I've got a lot more for you as well. I know you've got some really good updates on some of the cases from CrimeCon as well. So still to come, folks, it has been a veritable conveyor belt of case files and unsealed evidence ever since Brian Kohberger pleaded guilty in the Idaho student murder case. As you know, the rolling release of court documents has been startling and disturbing, but also it's been illuminating. However, that said, for the families of Kohberger's victims, it's been downright traumatizing. Today we spoke with Entin Chapin's mom about the material that she is trying her hardest to keep under wraps and how she's going about it. That is coming up next as Banfield continues live from CrimeCon. Even though he's locked away for life, Brian Kohberger still looms large, especially here at CrimeCon, in part because of the mountain of evidence that's been under seal for almost 3 years, but now, after the unsealing, is due to keep trickling out, sometimes gushing out for weeks and months to come. It is the kind of information that answers a lot of questions for people in my business who are reporters looking for facts and transparency in, American jurisprudence. But for the families of Kohberger's victims, some of the photos and the police reports are excruciating. And the parents of Maddie Mogan and Entin Chapin have asked a judge to keep the crime scene images under seal forever. Stacy Chapin, Ethan's mom, is here in Denver at CrimeCon, and Brian Entin spoke with her late today. Brian, I have been wanting to have a long sit down with Stacy Chapin for a very long time. She's a very complicated person, and obviously I understand why. But it must have been a really interesting conversation you guys had.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person. I mean, the way that she has handled this whole thing with such class and dignity. And what's interesting is now she has sort of partnered with the forensics company Othram, which is the company that basically cracked the Brian Kohberger case. You remember that piece of DNA on the knife sheath? Investigators sent the knife sheath off to this company Othram, and they're the ones who did the profile that got the ball rolling to eventually narrow it down to zero in on Brian Kohberger. So she's here with the executives from Othram trying to spread the word about this new DNA technology, talk about the way that it could help other cases too. So I spoke to both of them. Listen to a little bit of our conversation. It seems like you're kind of entering sort of, in a way, like the next chapter.
I don't disagree with that, actually. It feels like a very natural transition, I guess. I didn't know where it was all going to end or begin or how it was ever going to play out. But it made perfect sense when when the gag order was lifted and we could have a conversation. It made perfect sense. Because we're a face, we're a victim. We have been, Othram is involved in our case. And so it's just, it makes sense, right? And thank you. I mean, we've tried to take the high road through our case, through the entire, it's been it'll be 3 years in November, obviously, but.
We bumped into each other by chance. And this case was difficult because all of us were under a gag order, and we couldn't have our first real conversation until that gag order was lifted. And that was really difficult. Everything I do here at Othram, everything everyone here at Othram does is for the victims and their families. We're victim advocates first. And it's very difficult to meet your why and to not be able to tell them how you feel, what's going on in the case. But that's the deck of cards we were dealt in this scenario. And we are here tomorrow and I think indefinitely to try to advocate that others aren't dealt the same deck of cards, because it's a difficult one, right? To know that you have information that could help someone heal, that could help someone feel safe or secure, and to not be able to give it to them is difficult. Everyone that worked this case, all the family members that were involved, none of us could speak to the media.
Yeah.
You know that more than anyone.
Right.
And so everyone's speaking, everyone out there giving interviews was speculating with no knowledge, with very little information what was going on. And they painted the wrong picture. And finally we have our voices back.
Yeah, right.
And we're excited to tell the story.
We met by chance, and I had some knowledge throughout our case of what the Middlemans were doing, and I relied on that. Jim and I relied on that in our darkest moments. I didn't know anything, that I wasn't supposed to know, but it was a blessing, and victims' families should have the right to that information if they're going through the same thing we are. I mean, inevitably there's going to be families that are in the same position we are.
Yeah, I guess there would have been a lot more certainty had it been explained.
It it's definitive information. There was so much, so much speculation. There still is. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is science.
It's scientific.
Yeah, there's
right?
no speculation.
I mean, if you knew definitively that knife sheath was, without a shadow of doubt, which is the case, now that it's all said and done, it would have been different going through. You would have relied on, you kind of went, okay, maybe we don't need to worry as much as we need to worry.
Yeah, and there was one advanced forensic test performed. There was one profile. There was so much speculation out there about multiple profiles, incongruent information. There is only one lab that is doing this type of DNA technology that tested that DNA, and it's ours. Everyone tried to figure out why was this information not out there, what was missing, what was the missing component, and came up with a whole bunch of speculations that led to uncertainty. And that uncertainty continued to grow, and I think that was the most difficult on the victims' families.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And no one else, right? Like, I was certain the entire time because I saw the science. I knew the results, right? I never had one doubt in my mind that we'd be sitting here today, whenever today was, whether it's after the trial, before the trial, at a plea. I knew that this day was going to come. But the victims' families didn't have that certainty. I don't even know if law enforcement involved in the case had that certainty. I don't know how far the results actually propagated as the full result of the investigation, because everything was kept so under wraps. And I think that needs to change. And I want to make clear, because there are questions in our talk today for David, and I'm sure in our talk tomorrow, that we don't tell them this is your perpetrator. We say this person's profile, or one of these 2 or 3 people in this family left DNA at this crime scene. meaning that they then need to investigate. They need to contextualize that information. They knew in the Kohberger case that there was a white Elantra that was seen at the crime scene. Now they knew that there was a family in Pennsylvania that was identified. Could they look up a white Elantra that had a Pennsylvania plate or a Pennsylvania driver? Of course they could, and that's part of their investigation. I don't know the order of which the investigators actually investigated that case, but they were able to piece all those pieces together because we gave them the information that we gave them. And as they pieced all those puzzle pieces together, it became very clear that there was only one suspect that was possible of committing this crime.
What is it like for you to meet the person or the people who, I mean, it's so scientific what they did, but to put a face to it.
It was amazing. Jim and I hopped the first plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, we flew to Houston, and then Maisie and I have been back. I feel forever indebted to them. I have a list of people in my heart that, since November 13th that I feel that way about, and they're on the list. I mean, thank God that they developed something that helped our case, right?
And it really is such a cutting-edge technology, Ashleigh, that has not been around that long in terms of this specific tech that they use to get the DNA off of the knife sheath. And what they were alluding to in that conversation is the families, Stacy Chapin, the other families weren't given that information because of the gag order. So for years, they didn't know that the DNA existed in the way it did with that level of certainty. And that's one thing that Stacy says she wants to change moving forward for other victims of crime. She thinks they deserve to know that information early on.
I gotta say, Brian, it just does my heart good to see Stacy say something so happy, that she's just so thankful and her heart is connected to these Othram folks forever because of what they did to solve her son's murder. It's really beautiful to see that, and I am glad that she's finally got that information, but you're right. It would be nice if families could be more integral throughout the investigation. I understand why not, I do, but Brian, don't go anywhere. Thank you for that. I know you hustled to get that interview too, so thank you so much for that. Here at CrimeCon, It is always a great night for something we call a hot bench. And by the way, that is an actual term. Hot bench actually describes an appeals court panel that peppers lawyers with questions. But it's also the name of a hit TV show. And tonight, we're going to pepper all three hot bench judges right here at CrimeCon with some of the most controversial cases that we've covered. That is coming up next. We're back live here at CrimeCon in Denver, where the focus for many who come here is solving mysteries and finding justice for victims. Our next three guests serve up justice, or at least simple fairness, every single day on their hit TV show, Hot Bench. It bears repeating, the term hot bench is real. It's how lawyers refer to appellate judges who pepper them with questions. But again, it is also a banging TV show. Brian, you were able to speak with the show's current lineup of judges, and I am guessing that you didn't chat about the weather at CrimeCon.
No, this was so cool to get to meet up with them and get to run by some current cases, some kind of bizarre cases that are out there to see what they have to say about it, their hot takes. Listen to what they had to say. First of all, what do you guys think of CrimeCon so far?
Insane. It's a blast.
I love it. I haven't missed a panel.
You guys are like famous here.
Well, we love it too. I mean, this is our kind of stuff.
Okay, I want to get your take on a couple of cases here and see what you think. First of all, this is out of Hope, Arkansas. A woman driver flies through a red light, breaking traffic laws, swerving around other cars. A state trooper spots her whizzing by, chases her, thinks it's a reckless driver, but in the woman's backseat is actually her dying dog. Just hit by a car, the trooper chases the woman all the way to the vet clinic. She's going to the vet clinic, which ends up being closed, and the woman is sobbing and begs the officer for help, but instead gets slapped with handcuffs. This went viral. PETA got involved. There's a whole petition online. Should she have actually been slapped with cuffs when she was racing to the vet?
Absolutely.
No. When someone tells me their dog is dying, that becomes the priority. Then we'll talk about whether she needs to be arrested or not. But in this case, it sounds like she had some justifiable reason why she was speeding. Now, in fairness to the officer, we don't know what she did. We don't know whose lives she endangered by riding recklessly. But when I hear dog dying, that becomes a priority.
Yeah, I'm a dog guy, so I feel, but I mean, the trooper could say, right, she was breaking the law.
I mean, she was, but that can be handled with an infraction after the fact. You know, she can get a speeding ticket. I'd be in favor of that. But when you see her there with her dog, get her to the vet, like, save the dog, and then deal with, you know, whether she needs to be arrested or not.
Yeah, handcuffs.
I'm on the side of whoever's on the side of the dog. Period.
Yeah.
Fully agree. Okay.
Watch
We're all
bench, you'll see.
Yeah.
We're all dog lovers, but she absolutely worships dogs.
Okay, here we go. Case number 2. Palm Coast, Florida, a hospital nurse with 2 years on the job treated more than 4,000 patients, but there was one problem. Police say she was never officially a nurse. Her name's Autumn Bardisa. She allegedly used someone else's license. She handled IV medications, even critical care, all while impersonating a professional. And she only got caught when she was trying to get a promotion, and they went back and looked at her records. Now she's fired and facing a stack of charges. But here's the twist. The sheriff says that there's no evidence that anyone was actually harmed in her care. So apparently, you know, even though she wasn't a real nurse, she was kind of doing a good job.
That we know of yet.
Yeah, right.
Right? Somebody may sustain some damages later, and we don't know. And so I would, if I were being cared by her, I'd go back to the hospital and say, check me, because I don't know what she may have done to me. But who would know? The hospital needs to be looked at. Who's her? No, she absolutely should get the book thrown at her.
Yeah, this is a deterrence case, right? This is all about, we use the law to deter people. We punish people to deter others from doing the same thing. Maybe she injured someone, maybe she didn't, but we have to send a message that you can't do this. Otherwise, other people will do it and hope that if they don't hurt anyone, they can get away with it.
It's a good point that the hospital, did they not do the checks initially?
No, she stole someone's identity. And I'm glad that she's a good fake nurse, but she's still a fake nurse who stole someone's identity and could have endangered someone's life. That's why we have licensing boards, to make sure that people know what they're doing when they do this. Maybe she was lucky, but you need a license.
Yeah, I'd also be curious how they know she didn't hurt anyone. Did nobody in her care get hurt, as Yodit said? I bet an investigation is going to tell us more.
I don't understand how they caught that she wasn't a registered nurse because they were about to promote her, but couldn't do that when she was actually applying for the job.
Right. Yeah,
right?
Like,
a little late. What were you doing?
Yeah, totally.
Well, she was promoted.
Yeah. Okay.
You're doing a great job.
All right. Case 3 here takes us to St. Pete Beach, Florida. 50-year-old James Farthing is celebrating a $167 million Powerball win when he allegedly throws a punch in a bar. Police say he hit another patron, then kicked a deputy in the face, which is never good, when they tried to break it up. Bad news in itself, but turns out Farthing, he was already a convicted felon with crimes stretching across 9 counties, 3 decades. So that bar brawl, a parole violation, now he's facing new charges and the real possibility of going back to prison. What do you think should happen with the winnings?
Some guys get all the
Yeah, right? I mean, whatever would otherwise happen to them.
Right.
They must have something in place for people that can't collect their winnings initially, or for people that need the winnings to be put into a trust. I mean, he shouldn't lose the winnings, but it shouldn't affect his prison sentence. He should go to jail for as long as he needs to go to jail.
You think you should still get the money?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he won the money fair and square. There's nothing. I think he's just dumb to go get into a bar brawl after winning the lottery.
Yeah, he won all that money and then he's fighting.
Why not a little old lady who's been saving up her money every week to buy the... Why some guy who's on parole beating up cops? Why is he the guy who wins this?
Allegedly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, allegedly, right? Yeah, you're the criminal defense
I'm the old
lawyer,
criminal.
right?
Yes, no, I know. But he's on parole.
Yeah.
That's not an allegation.
You can't start taking the lottery winnings away from people if they do something wrong, because it would just open up a whole can of worms. Like, oh, well, you got a traffic ticket afterwards. Now we're going to take it away from you. He gets the winnings if there's a mechanism for that, I think.
He'll lose the winnings, though.
Of course.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good track record.
We know that there are stories about that, so he's going to be one of those.
So that was fun, Ashley, to get to meet them. The one about the dog, though, really got me. I mean, you're rushing your dog to the vet and you get put in handcuffs. I think everybody agreed that seemed kind of messed up.
Oh, man, I was mad when I saw them putting the cuffs on her, because I would have done the exact same thing. And I would have said, I'm sorry, officer, I have an emergency, I'm sorry. And I would be sorry, but I want to save my dog. And the dog had been hit, too. It wasn't just a dog, you know, dying of old age. This was an emergency. I wonder if they would have felt the same way if it was a kid. It's the same crime, right? You're committing the same crime if it's a kid that's hurt in the back and you're still speeding, you're still endangering other people's lives, right? Brian, you've left me with a conundrum. Thank you, my dear, but you can't go anywhere. I need you to stay right where you are, because everybody, coming up, we got a big treat. Admit it. We're still talking dogs. Every time you see a doggy at the airport, you do a double take, right? Even if the doggie's just a civilian pup traveling with their human. But it is those canine officers that have us transfixed. And not just at the airport. They are nothing short of remarkable. The way they alert to drugs and the way they catch the bad guys in the field. We have a deep dive with the canine cops from Colorado here at CrimeCon when we come back live. If you ever have to call the police, it is always a relief when they show up. But you know what's even better? When they show up with cops who know how to heel and fetch, and if need be, sick 'em. Pound for pound, canine officers are some of the best assets of any police department. So naturally, they're showing their stuff off here at CrimeCon. And who's a good boy? Brian Entin is, because he got down on all fours for a one-on-one.
Can you say hi? Yes. It's like, what the heck is that? So hi. Sniff it? Oh, you can leave your nose print?
So what's his name?
This is Mardigan.
This is Mardigan. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
And what kind of dog?
He's a Dutch Shepherd.
Okay, Dutch. And what does he do for you?
So his specialty, in Aurora, we have dual-purpose dogs. So he apprehends suspects, and he also finds guns, ammunition, and currency.
So when you say apprehend suspects, is it like in the movies where they chase them and bite them and pull them down?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, finding bad guys that run from us and hide in bushes or, go to sheds. Goose. Yeah. Come here. Goose. Go. House. No. House. Good house. Good boy. Basically, all our commands are in German.
Okay.
And so basically, say Saxelby is my suspect and he runs, he's going to queue up on him running and I'll give him the command to bite. Oh, good boy, buddy. You found it.
So is he like your partner?
He is.
Yeah.
He's with me pretty much 24/7. Comes to work with me, home. He lives with us. Yeah.
Awesome. Can I play, or I guess probably
not?
No,
let me just fix his leash.
I can tug?
You can.
Okay. Oh, he's so strong. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's very strong.
Oh my God, we're pulling
He's
arm
very
out.
strong,
Wow.
yeah.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
I know, buddy. Good boy. So we work on several. Well, dogs can smell odor, like break up each individual smell. Their olfactory systems, right? So typically we go in and we smell like a pot roast, like the stew cooking. A dog can differentiate between everything in that stew. So if you think about like the guns and ammunition, they're looking for the gunpowder that's in it. You got the primer, the metal, stuff like that. So they're actually smelling each individual component of that. And so when we start working odors with green dogs, we imprint it by paying them with a toy, saying, you smell this odor, you get to play with us.
Has he found a lot of ammunition
in
his time? Yeah.
Yep. Casings from shootings, guns.
And his reward is just playing, like you being
this
happy
is the toy.
for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when we go out on the road, if he finds a casing, this is what he gets as a reward, and he loves it. Like this, you see his tail's wagging. He's like, "Oh, this is fun, right?" This is what he wants to do.
He really wants me to pull on it. He's so strong. He's so strong.
Yeah, he's a strong boy. Hi, buddy.
He's like, no, not yet. I was having too much fun.
Oh, you want a good house? Good boy. Yes. House.
Wow. Okay, first of all, I remember hearing that the reason that the commands are in German is because many of those dogs are trained in Germany, and they're trained by Germans. And so when they come over here, when they're purchased or when they're shipped, you got to stay with the same commands. You're not changing them at that point, and that's why it might just be now sort of standard because it was that way. I don't know. I'd have to dig in on that a little bit more, but awesome. Awesome. Is Brian still with me? His poor little arm, he's probably getting... Are you there, Brian? Are you still there?
Oh my God.
How is your arm? That looked kind of owie.
It really was. Oh my, I have a lab and a golden retriever, so I was like, oh, the dog wants to play tug. It's gonna be like my dog. I mean, the thing literally almost pulled me over. They're so strong.
But so cute. Were you allowed, like once the cameras were off, were you allowed to snuggle? Because I just want to get in there and do FaceTime, but I know that they're not always allowed to do that.
No, and she kind of told me not to, and I'm such a dog guy. Like, I would be on the floor with the thing, but I didn't really get the vibe that was a good idea with him. Maybe not such a good. I probably wouldn't be on the show right now if I had tried to do that.
Well, that was a great segment. Thank you for doing that. I so appreciate it. Okay, still ahead in our Friday night CrimeCon special, what do you get when you cross a twisted doctor with fetish porn, insurance fraud, and access to an amputation OR? Yeah, this is one of the weirder crimes I've ever covered. And that's saying a lot, especially here at CrimeCon. Don't go anywhere. We are live in Denver. Back right after this. UK, and it's a real head scratcher. A surgeon who specialized in amputations is himself limping off to prison for being a little too obsessed with his work. Prosecutors say that Neil Hopper, that's Dr. Hopper, has an amputation fetish. Ugh. And in 2019 decided to be an amputee himself, don't ask. Authorities say that he plunged both of his legs into a vat of dry ice for hours and hours, and then claimed that he had sepsis, and surprise, surprise, his legs had to be amputated. But as a consolation prize for the good doctor, he collected more than $600,000 from an insurance carrier, some of which he apparently spent on mutilation porn. I know, I didn't know there was such a thing. That's actually how he got caught, when police started investigating the freakish website where he bought the videos. Hopper pleaded guilty to insurance fraud and possession of extreme pornography and was sentenced this week to 32 months in His Majesty's custody. And here's my guess. If he gets a parole hearing, he's not going to have a leg to stand on. But that is it tonight from CrimeCon. My big thanks to Brian Entin for working so hard. And thank you so much for watching our special edition live from Denver, Colorado. See you Monday. Cuomo's next.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.